In this video, we will look at some of the particular ethical challenges that face international civil servants, individuals who work for the United Nations and its funds and programs, its specialized agencies, as well as the kinds of ethical challenges that public servants in all government systems may face as well. We start with understanding the core ethical values of the United Nations. And these core ethical values come from the oath of office that each international public servant takes on his or her first day in office. Those of you who are familiar with or work with governments may have a similar oath of office that you have taken or will take on your first day of office. So let me read to you the UN Oath of Office, and together we will take a look at those core ethical values. So the oath that we took, all of us on day one: I solemnly declare and promise to exercise in all loyalty, discretion, and conscience the functions entrusted to me as an international civil servant of the United Nations, to discharge these functions and regulate my conduct with the interests of the United Nations only in view, and not to seek or accept instructions in regard to the performance of my duties from any government or other source external to the organization. When each civil servant takes this oath of office, we are reminded of our core ethical values, and they are loyalty, discretion, promise-keeping, ethical awareness or ethical mindfulness, independence, objectivity, respect for authority, personal accountability, and integrity. Collectively, we call these the core ethical values of the United Nations. Many organizations, predominantly in the public sector, have a similar oath or similar statement that tells us as public servants that the mission we serve is broader than and yet more deep as to why we do what we do than if we were in the private sector. This is why the arena called organizational ethics has a slightly different flavor when it comes to the core values that we ascribe ethical rights and wrongs to. When we understand those core ethical values, remembering the definition of ethics that we talked about, we can begin to apply those values, not just our personal moral values, but those of the organization for which we work. And we can apply those values and use them in solving everyday ethical dilemmas. I want you, as a listener and a viewer of this video, to think for a moment about some of those sleepless night issues that you've encountered. Take a few seconds to think about the toughest ethical challenge that you have faced in your life or your career to date. Do you have that situation in mind? Sometimes it takes us a few seconds to recall that problem. I don't want to know the details of your sleepless night issue, but ask yourself, was this easy? Because I really haven't had any ethical challenges? Was this hard? I couldn't choose just one. Or did you say, I'm an insomniac, I always have sleepless nights? Or do you think to yourself and say, this was really tough. I am still suffering the consequences of my decision. How do you know when you're in an ethical dilemma? It is often the sense of a sleepless night. I'm terribly unsure about the situation. It has consequences that extend beyond me. There are a number of stakeholders or individuals who really care about the decision that I have to make. This problem engages my emotions. This dilemma is one for which there is no clearly right or clearly wrong solution. And that's when you know you're in the midst of an ethical dilemma. One of the ways of applying our core ethical values to these dilemmas that we all face in our lives. One of the ways we look at this is to see if we can classify or describe the type of ethical dilemma that you are facing. What are some of the examples of those kinds of ethics issues? Remember, when you can describe the kind of issue that is giving you that sleepless night, you are probably on the road to the resolution. And we have in the public service, I think around 17 or 18 commonly reoccurring ethics issues. And let me, by referring to the following slide, read them to you. Unpaid debts, discrimination, the misuse of resources, the misuse of information, fraud, waste, and abuse, nepotism and favoritism, political engagement, the fair use of intellectual property, privacy breaches, conflicts of interest, financial disclosure, outside employment, retaliation, duties to multiple stakeholders, gifts, bribes, and kickbacks, corruption, fair sales and marketing practices. These 17 or 18 examples of ethics issues often give you a clue to the kind of ethical dilemma you are facing. They help you take that sleepless night situation that you've been thinking about, and that's in the front of your thoughts right now, to ask yourself what kind of problem this is. In our next video, we will talk about how to make responsible decisions about those ethics issues.